Okay, hello everybody. We're going to start our live lecture this evening with photographer Rebecca Danzenbaker. And before we begin, I'll just tell you a little bit about her. Myself, my name is Professor Fyander. I'm one of the senior full-time faculty members here at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh's online division. And we brought Ms. Danzenbaker to our school so she can speak to you not only about her genre of photography, but also about how to go about running a successful freelance photography business. I think that's what a lot of us are really interested in is, you understand the skills of how to take a good photograph and, what do you do with it then? How do you get these clients and talk about branding and marketing and customer service? So Rebecca Danzenbaker is a newborn, maternity, and family photographer based out of my home state, Virginia. And she's been published in numerous different magazines, including Arlington Magazine, Bethesda Magazine, a couple different blogs, the Slideshow Blog, as well as Macaroni Kid and French Kiss Connection. And like a lot of us, she was interested in photography her entire life, although it wasn't until 2005 that she obtained her first DSLR and began to pursue the photography hobby a little bit more seriously. So she took a number of classes in photography, just like many of you are doing, and really kind of attributes a lot of her success to this quote-unquote photography business boot camp that she attended, where she really learned how to market her work and gain clientele and that sort of thing. So what we're going to see tonight is a number of slides about photography business, and we're also going to see about a 3-minute slideshow that Rebecca has put together for us with a little music overlay, and you can see a number of her images in this gorgeous slideshow that will really give you an idea of not only the genre of photography that she works in, but also her editing style and that sort of thing. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the platform off to Rebecca Danzenbaker, and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, uh, even though my business professional name is Rebecca Danzenbaker Photography, my whole life everyone's called me Becky. So please feel free to call me Becky. Even my clients, I ask to call me Becky once I get to know them. So, like Melanie said, I have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. This is me. Yay, that was last summer. I'm located in Ashburn, Virginia. That's in Northern Virginia, kind of near Dulles Airport. And she already told you who I specialize in, but what I'm going to be talking about tonight is more the business aspect of photography and running a photography business. Um, Here are all the different ways that you can find me and stalk me. If you do follow me on Instagram, you'll mostly just see pictures of my kids and my dog. So it's not any of my professional work. And all of this is going to be, I think they're going to deliver a PDF of the presentation to you, so you don't have to take snapshots of the screens or anything like that. For all of the information I'm going to post for you tonight. And I'm going to start off with a slideshow of my work. Hopefully this will play well. I've tested it a gazillion times. So sit back and relax. Go, go. Nope. All right, let's try that again. I knew that would happen. When the day turns to night and the night clouds your eyes, if you seek, you'll find. It's the start, it's the end of the page. It's the way you already came. When your tears and your fears come to life, if you reach, you'll find all my love and my arms open wide. For you always and every time. I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love, my love, my love, my love. Wish that I had a box that could keep every time, a remote to rewind back to every sweet moment we've shared. Because time will fade memories. Oh, you shimmer, you glimmer, you shine. Every breath that you take matches mine. When you smile, the world comes to life. And my love, I would give you mine. I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love, my love, my love, my love. Ooh, la, I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love. I want to give you my love, my love, my love. Take a step in life's dance, take a chance, take your time. If you seek, you'll find. It's the start, it's the end of the page. It's the way you already came. Yay, so that's me. Obviously, that's my work just from the last year. So, um, as you know, you grow and you get better and better. Um, and I will show you my early work. In fact, I'm going to show you my journey of how I got there. It was a long journey for me. I don't want you to think that this all comes so super fast. And most photographers you talk to will say the same thing. So I want to just really quickly, as quickly as I possibly can, go through my journey with you. In 1999, I was in like seventh or eighth grade, and I received my first camera. It was a Click. It was a disc film camera, and I had my first portrait session with my friend Jessica. Um, this is Jessica. She's probably so mad if she knew that I was showing this off. But just to be fair, she also took pictures of me, so there I was. Um, I thought that it would be great just to show you, well, that I didn't know anything about photography when I was little. Actually, when I developed these and saw how poor they were, I decided that was probably not my calling. So even though I love photography, I went on to what I love next, which was music. So that is my Dayglow armpit right there. I was a music major in college, a vocal major, obviously, and I received my bachelor's in music education for K through 12. So for 5 years, I was an elementary school music teacher, and I think that actually, oh, I need to slow down. I think that really helped, especially with becoming a family photographer, because I got to learn how to interact with children of all different ages. And so even if you decide to specialize only in weddings or in newborn photography, you're going to have to work with siblings. You're going to have to work with ring bearers and things like that. So working with children was a huge help, and working with parents, oh my gosh, like huge help. So that experience was great for me. But after 5 years of teaching, I developed horrible vocal nodes. Actually, after 3 years of teaching, I developed really bad vocal nodes. So I went back and got my master's in education in instructional technology. But after interviewing for a few jobs where I was doing like web-based training design, I was like, you know what, I really don't want to sit behind the computer and program all day, web-based training programs. So what am I going to do? So I actually sent out my resume to all of my friends, and one of my friends worked at Congressional Quarterly at the time, and she was like, you know what, I love this job. Come do this with me. And she got me in the door for an interview, and I started working there in 2003 in account management. If you aren't familiar with what account management is, it's basically high upscale customer service. It's not finance related. At first, I thought that's what it was. So, just in case you weren't sure. Um, but this also was fantastic experience because when you're doing high upscale customer service, you have to learn how to make your clients happy, even when you cannot give them and provide them what they want. So, it is a lot of wordsmithing. It's a lot of patience. It's a lot of, I understand and, really do seeing things from their angle and letting them assure them that you know how they feel. So it's a lot of that. I had a $4 million book and a lot of pressure to renew all of those accounts. But it was, again, really fantastic experience. In 2004, I got married. By the way, my mother-in-law is online tonight. Just shout out to my mother-in-law. Hi. And my mom is supposed to be online too. Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day again. So anyway, okay, keep on. In 2005, for Christmas, I received my first digital SLR camera. I was pregnant at the time. I was 2 months pregnant with my first, and my husband knew I really wanted a nice camera. It was a Digital Rebel XT, which was actually, entry level consumer, prosumer, whatever, camera. In 2006, before I had my son, I took a 6-night photography composition class at a local community college. Oh, and by the way, when I received that SLR camera, I read the manual cover to cover. I bought another manual and read that cover to cover, and then I bought another one, because people can write their own, like publish their own manuals. And I read that. So 3 manuals for the same camera. Just that's how obsessed I was. So then I jumped on this class, like, hey, let me get in the door. And I took that, and that also taught me a lot. I had my son, and then my niece and nephew, they were all born in the same year. So in 2007, I devoted that entire to being mamarazzi. So I was taking thousands of pictures, thousands, and posting them on Shutterfly, and everybody was looking. This was before Facebook, so I was like, yes, I'm awesome, but I wasn't really that good. In 2008, I took a lighting class, a full like college lighting class, and then also a photojournalism class at Northern Virginia Community College. 3 credit classes. So they were full term classes, and they taught me so much. I don't know what I could have done without those classes. So, yay that you are in this program and learning photography. It really makes you stand apart when you know your stuff. So, know your stuff. But in parallel, I was still working at Congressional Quarterly, and I was promoted. All of a sudden, I've been there for 5 years now, and I was promoted to the director of account management. I was leading a team of 8 people, all of who were my peers, and then I was overseeing them. But I trusted them, I loved them. It was a great position, and I also had my first paying client. So my sister emailed out a picture I took of her son. Again, this is just before Facebook, and was like, "Hey, look at this picture that Becky took of Casey." And one of her friends replied, like, "Would Becky come and take pictures of my family?" And she was like, "Yeah." So this is from that session. Um, you can see that it was not fantastic. I probably gave her like 200 photos on a disc or something. And this, like, it makes me cringe, but we all start somewhere, and like, these are really touching photos to her because of her kids, and so she loved it, and she got a great deal because I wasn't charging much. And I also, after doing a few of these for friends, I decided, you know what, I probably should be paying taxes, and so I incorporated my business in 2008, and that was late in the year, November of 2008. Woohoo! So I actually had a business, and I was so excited. In 2009, though, I got pregnant again, well, earlier than that, and my daughter was born. And while I was on maternity leave, um, CQ was sold to the Economist Group, and that created a four-way merger of their American-held companies. So CQ, Roll Call, Gallery Watch, and Capital Advantage all came together in one building. And when I returned from maternity leave, instead of managing one team of 8 people, I was managing 3 teams of 20 people. And I had to figure out how to get all of them doing the same thing, and new incentives and metrics and all of this stuff. So I was using online database management and for our clients, and I was using that to figure out how my account managers were doing. And so I was getting a lot into business analytics. And again, all of this comes into play with photography, like managing people, learning how business works a little bit. This is all really super helpful. But as you can imagine, having 20 direct reports is not fun. It was super stressful. That's 20 people having their own ideas, needing different help, writing 20 reports every year of how these people are doing, and all this stuff. It was crazy. And going through a merger at the same time. Awesome. So in 2010, I was like, you know what? I want to do this full time, but I didn't know how. And so I did a lot of research. And in early 2011, I took a photography business boot camp. Now, this woman, Leanna Lehman Hall, she doesn't teach anymore. She still does photography, but she's had kids since then. So she stopped doing the business boot camps. But I'm going to try to get through as much of the material as possible, just so you get an overview of what I went through over this 3 full-day class. And she taught, it was all about business and a tiny, tiny bit of shooting, but finances, pricing, marketing, branding. I'm going to go through all of this later. That was a huge thing for me. And then from that class, we created a plan on how we were going to meet our goals, and each of our goals were different. And one of my goals was to get my photography seen by more people. And one of those ideas was to put canvases in doctors' offices where my potential clients might be going. I actually got that idea because the pediatrician office I was going to had a photographer's workup. So I was like, this is awesome. Every time I go here, which is a lot if you have kids, they get sick a lot. I should do something like this. And I really wanted to get into newborn photography because I wanted photography that could easily be done during the week. Because I have 2 small kids and they go to school, and I wanted to be able to do it while they were at school. So I was like, let me find a birthing center. So it was this, for me, I know I had it easy. A lot of people have not had as much luck as I did with this. So I just wanted to make sure you knew it wasn't this easy. But I Google searched birthing center in Northern Virginia. The very first one that came up. I clicked the link to contact them, and I sent them an email and said, hey, I'm a photographer, a newborn photographer in Northern Virginia. I'd love to hang free artwork up in your office. And I'll come hang it myself, and you can approve the canvases before I order them. And any photography needs that your business has, I will do it for you at no charge. Headshots, if you have any personal photography needs, like a family gathering, you want me to come out? Yes, I will do it. And they responded like a week later, so I thought it had just gone into a black hole. But a week later, I got an email like, that sounds good. Come meet with us. Let's go measure the walls. And I was like, awesome. And it's great. And it's right down the road from me now. And that's really awesome too, because I can pop in and talk to them every now and then. And then the pediatrician's office came to my attention through my brother-in-law, and he was like, hey, our pediatrician doesn't have any artwork up in his office, and we're good friends with the doctor who owns it, and I can introduce you. And I was like, let's do it. So that's how I got the artwork up there. So leverage your networks. I also have a friend who's a dentist, so if I wanted to, I could like bombard him. So anywhere where people are going pretty frequently, where your name is going to get in their heads, that's where you'll want your work to be seen. Oh, also, so I'm still at CQ at this time, still rolling along, working full time, and not loving the managing of 20 people. But my company, CQ Roll Call now, had decided that they didn't want to keep this separate home-built contract management system anymore. They wanted to move it into Salesforce.com. And I was the only person in the company that knew Salesforce.com. Our account managers used it to like put in client notes, but I was like creating dashboards and running reports and doing analytics. And they were like, we need somebody who can do this for us. So they offered me this position. They said, we'll pay you the same salary. You won't have any direct reports and you can telecommute. And I was like, yes, sign me up. And that took a lot of stress off of me. And I love working from home. So that was just like amazing for me. So that was a good opportunity. And it gave me less stress and less thinking about these 20 people that were reporting to me, gave me more time to focus on what I need to do to get my business going. So another part of my plan was that I wanted to contact Arlington Magazine. Now, again, this is part of leveraging my network. My former boss at CQ left CQ to go start Arlington Magazine. And he met up with me a year later, right when he was kind of fundraising, and was like, hey, it'd be cool if you did some freelance for us, some work for us sometime. And I was like, yeah, that's great. So that was like 2011, 2012. He put out his first issue, and I was like, hey, do you still want me to do some freelance work? I'd be really interested in that. And he was like, yeah, let me get you in touch with somebody. And again, that email went into a black hole. I followed up. Follow up is really important. And they responded, and I got on their staff, and I started doing monthly freelance work for them, maybe like 6 assignments a month. It did not pay well, but it was cool. I had a byline. I saw my name in print. It was really great. I actually had photos published. And this is going to seem really personal and not relevant, but it will be. We sold our house in Arlington in April of 2012. We started building a house in Ashburn. It was going to be ready in November. And so we moved into an apartment in Arlington. Right then, a couple months later, after we moved into our apartment, CQ had, on a day I was telecommuting, layoffs of 30 people that I worked with directly. So people who I had managed, people in the sales team, account managers that I was working with day-to-day basis, and some of whom I had hired. Like, it was just crazy. I mean, if you've ever been through layoffs, like, it is scary. In fact, this is the article that was published on Fishbowl DC, and this is how I felt because we were building a house, and our mortgage financing was through both of us having full-time salaries, and I was like, oh my gosh, we are going to lose this house that we've been planning for years. We're not going to be able to close on it because we're going to lose our financing. So I freaked out, and then I went and spoke to HR and my boss, and I was like, what's your plan for me? And they were like, honestly, like, we'll be really honest with you. We're not sure yet what we're going to do with your position and you. I was like, oh my God. So I went to them with the plan. I was like, well, here's what I want to do. If you're not sure what you want to do with me, I'm going to tell you what I want to do. I want to go part-time. At this point, I had, the canvases were paying off, little other things I was doing were paying off, and I was ready to take on more photography clients. So I was like, I want to go part-time. I want to go 3 days a week. That'll give me 2 days a week to photograph, and also weekends. And if you can hold off, let me go full time until we settle in November. I will then go part time. And they were like, okay, that's great. And so again, like, it's crazy going through this whole merger, and it's a different company than it was before, but CQ Roll Call has always been an incredibly supportive company. I just want to make sure that's really clear. They've always been really amazing with me. And they've always known about my photography passion and been supportive. Okay. Convergence in 2013. This is last year. Oh my gosh. Okay, so in January, they said, you know what? We can't support you at 3 days a week. You have to go to 2 days a week. And I freaked out again because I hadn't budgeted for 2 days a week. I lost all of my benefits because I was less than part-time or less than half-time. And so that was really scary for me. And then I was worried that I wouldn't have enough clients, but literally like 2 or 3 days later, I had filled up holes really neatly in my schedule. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fine. In February, I hired my sister to do my business finances, which was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I hate doing the QuickBooks like manual entry of all of the different transactions in my bank account and all of the sales that I do. I like the more creative stuff. I like the editing. It was taken away from all that. So she does that for me now, and she loved that so much. I was like, give me more. So in March, I was like, hey, keyword my website for me. And I showed her how to do it. And That was the tipping point. That was it. That was, I can pinpoint it to that exact thing. In fact, I have Google Analytics to support it. So you guys know I have this analytics background. So I do look at my Google Analytics pretty much daily. Maybe I'll skip a day every now and then, but I go in and see how my website is performing. And if I notice that I get a few less inquiries one week, I go in and I see, like, yeah, I can tell my traffic went down. Maybe I need to do a little more website maintenance and things like that. But this is a screenshot of 2013 monthly, and you can see right there in May where it starts to pick up. So she keyworded my website in March, probably finished in April, and in April and early May, I noticed a big difference in the number of emails I was getting asking for pricing and session inquiries. Um, by the end of May, I was so booked that I was turning people away. Again, I was only shooting on the weekends, and then I had like 3 days during the week that I could shoot, but I was limiting myself to 4 sessions a week because I had to have time to edit, and I still had to do this other work for 2 days a week. So I was like, okay, talking to my husband, like I gotta resign. I can't keep this up anymore. And he's like, no, wait, let's just see if this holds. This could just be a fluke. And so we let it go for another month, and I'm turning away more and more people, like 4 people a week, 5 people a week, 6 people a week. I'm turning away clients because I can't fit them in my schedule. And so I was like, I gotta do this, honey. And he's like, all right, let's do it. You've been working for this forever. Um, this is, if you've done the math, I incorporated my business in 2008. In 2011, I made the plan to go full time. And this is midway through 2013. So this is 2.5 years later. And for the year and a half leading up to this, I was doing, well, part-time work slash full-time work before I went part-time, freelance work for Arlington Magazine, and my own photography work. And I'm not exaggerating. I was only getting 4 or 5 hours every night, every night for a year and a half. Every night, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I was miserable. I was crying a lot. I was not being a good mom, which is hard. I'm going to get emotional when you have young kids, to feel that way. It's really hard. um, but I also knew that if I stayed in the corporate job, that I would be miserable myself. And I did not want to set that example for my kids. I did not want to be the person that did a job that did not fulfill them. And I wanted to show them, if you chase your dreams, if you work for it, you will get it. And so after 2.5 years, after no sleep, after trying and trying and trying, I finally in June gave my notice. I was trembling when I walked in, and I sat down in my boss's office, and I was like, okay, it's time. And she's like, I knew it. Like, she's like, your work is amazing. I knew this would happen. I was waiting for it. And it made me feel so much better. And again, like, couldn't say enough great things about that company. They were really great. I also stopped the Arlington Magazine work because, again, it didn't pay well. And I could pick up more clients for my business to do that. So, and then, all right, so full-time photographer in um, July. Okay, so how did I get there? If you want to do photography full time and you can't afford to do it as a hobby, like you have to make a salary and you have to pay bills. Like me and my husband, we both pay the bills. This isn't something I do for fun. I went from, I'm gonna be honest, I went from a six-figure salary, and I had to make, um, of course, that's before taxes and all that stuff. I had to make the same take-home salary that I was making at my full-time job doing photography, and that was really scary. So, to help you get to where you need to be, the very first thing you need to do is to figure out how much money you have to make to do this full time. So don't go at this willy-nilly. You have to figure this out. Here's everything you could possibly spend money on, hopefully, monthly. And I'm not going to go through all these things, but you obviously have monthly bills, you have monthly living expenses, and you have savings. And none of this should be put to the wayside if you're going to make photography a career. So you need to go through, and you can use this diagram when you get the PDF, and put down in this how much you spend, and then total that all up, multiply it by 12, and that has to be your annual salary. your annual take-home salary. If you have a spouse or someone else contributing income, then subtract that away. Okay, so then that's your salary. So here's all of our expenses. This is how much I need to make. And please don't shortchange yourself. Be honest with yourself. If you want to retire, make sure you save for your retirement. If you want to go on vacation, if you want to build a new house, if you want to save for your college education or your children's college education, save. Make sure you build that in to your budget, okay? So this is your new required take-home salary. I need this much money to pay my bills to put into savings. Okay, that is only a third of what you have to gross in sales. Okay, here's the truth. You only get to keep a third in take-home pay of every dollar you make. A third of it goes to the IRS, Social Security, and state taxes. A third, right off the bat. And that's legit because I just paid a really whopping bill. A third of it's going to go to business expenses. And so here's my little diagram. This is taxes, this is expenses, and then this is what you get to keep. That's my sad face. It's kind of bad. It's kind of poor. It's really sad, actually, especially if you just got that big gulp in your mouth like I did when I was sitting at my business boot camp, and this is my first like 30 minutes into my boot camp class. This was my wake-up call, like, oh my gosh, lump in my throat. How can I possibly make that much money? How can I possibly have people pay me that much money for photography? Don't worry, because we're going to get there. Okay. Here are my actual business expenses every year. By the way, you get the PDF. There's a little math error, but it's all right. It's right here. Just excuse the math error later. My total annual operating expenses are $15,271. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. And that does not include cost of sales. Cost of sales are how much money you spend solely on one client for that one session to fulfill their order or to drive to their session or pay your entrance fee or give them food or drinks or anything like that when they're at your session. So that gets reported separately in my QuickBooks or my like business expenses, and maybe my accountant factors that out separately for the IRS. All I know is that that is separate from my actual operating expenses. And so you have to factor that in as well. If somebody purchases a print from you, I have to then go buy that print. So that's going to cost me something. So right about now, your homemade cake isn't looking so good because that's a lot of money. It's a lot. And I have to cover that every year. So wait a second, though. Don't freak out, okay? Because we're going to make a plan. Multiply your necessary take-home income by 3. That's how much money you need to gross in sales each month. So let's say you have to take home $60,000 a year. So in Pittsburgh or wherever you are in Northern Virginia, that's actually, you know, a modest income. Northern Virginia is a really wealthy community, so that's, you know, pretty decent. That means I have to gross $180,000 in sales every year. I have to take in that much money. Well, figure out how many sessions you can physically do every year. I thought going into it, I can easily, or not easily, I can manage to do 4 sessions a week. And I'm going to work 49 weeks in a year. And that is 196 total sessions, 49 times 4. Divide the gross receipts by the number of sessions. So $180,000 by 196 is $918 a session. Again, this is like lump in my throat. What the heck? And you guys know you're going to need a cushion. So you are going to need to make $1,000 a session. $1,000 a session. And you remember, you only get to keep $333 of that. So here's how you're going to make $1,000 a session, because that's a lot of money. It's a lot. All right, 1, this is so important. There are photographers of every make and build. Okay, I started out charging $100 and burned the photos onto a disc and gave it to the client. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's, you know what? I don't worry about $100 photographers. People go to McDonald's and people go to French restaurants. They're both restaurants. People are going to go to $100 photographers, and they are not the clients that I want. I need to make sure I attract the clients who want to find a good photographer, who are going to spend a lot of money. So on my website, on my pricing page, I say, hey, clients typically spend $1,000 to $2,000 after their session and products. Just set that expectation right away. Number two, this is really important. Collect a session fee. A lot of photographers don't do that. They'll just charge for the digital files later. I noticed in my own experience, if you don't collect upfront when they book a session, the session fee, they are way more likely to cancel or reschedule their session. Once they put up money, they're going to be a lot more likely to step up. And the second point there is that once you've spent money, you forget about it. It gets dissolved into your budget. So once they pay that $150, $200, $250 session fee, it's out of their mind. So when they come later to make their sales or to purchase their photos or prints, they're not thinking, I already spent $250 on this. They're thinking they're starting fresh. But you have already made a quarter of what you need to make for your session. So if you need to make $1,000 from that client, you've already made $250. Woohoo! So I only have to make $750 in sales, which is a lot different, okay? All right, the third thing, quadruple the cost of your products, okay? So here's my one example. When I order an 8x10 for a client, it cost me about $2 for the print, and then I have it mounted. So it comes on a little like 1/8 of an inch cardboard. It's not pliable. I want it to look professional, so I pay for it to get mounted. So that brings the cost up to about $4. And then I pay for it to be packaged. I want the nice like tissue and ribbon, against all presented really well. That's another $7. So we're up a lot higher now. What was that? 7, 8, 9, $11. $11. And then if I don't meet the $13 minimum order that my lab has, I also have to pay $7 in shipping. So if they only spend they only buy one 8x10 print, that's going to cost me $18. Now, my 8x10s are actually $49 because no one really, except for sometimes grandparents, no one really just buys one 8x10. So, but if they do, I'm still going to make some money, but not a lot. And maybe one day will come where I'm going to charge for $80 for an 8x10, but I'm not there. Who knows? Right now, mine are $49. I'll tell you that right now. When you put your photos online, whether it be in your blog or on Facebook, or when you're showing your clients their photos in an online gallery, make sure your watermark is right on top of it in a really annoying place. My sales went up substantially when clients could no longer take screenshots of their photos. So they will pay to get that off of there. So that's also going to increase your sales. Give them incentives for hitting purchase targets. I just had someone tonight who was like, hey, I saw when I order $1,000 worth of stuff that I get some mini accordion albums. So I'm like, yeah. And I showed her pictures of them and told her more about them and all that stuff. So people like to get stuff for free, but make sure that they earn it. So I do have a couple of incentives. Show it to sell it. I didn't make this up. I don't know where it came from, but if you want people to buy something, show it to them. Have a canvas. Then you can explain why it's better than something you could get at Costco, and show them the prints that are mounted so they understand that it's not flexible like you would get from Shutterfly. Like, it's really nice. It's going to present well. It's going to hold up over the test of time. It's not going to warp. The albums, have a sample album handy so they can touch it and feel it, because once they see these things, they see the quality in them and it's better than something they've ordered from Shutterfly, then they'll know why they're spending the money for it. Branding is really important. So I rebranded after my boot camp class, and I did some research. And it was more of just like a lot of like, okay, what brands do I like? I like Banana Republic. I like J. Crew. I like Tiffany. And I was thinking like high-end brands too. I like Ann Taylor Loft. All of these brands have serif, all caps fonts. All of these brands, XYZ, their websites look like this. And then I wanted to look like that. My brand is also me. It's got pink in it, which is my favorite color. It's got peony flowers, which are my favorite flowers. So it's got Jane Austen font too. And I should have put a picture in here. I'm sorry I didn't. But when I rebranded, like, I made sure it's me. So your logo and your website have to reflect that you are high caliber. You're high dollar. You don't want a lot of cartoon characters over here if you're charging $1,000 for a session. Like, you need it to look really professional. When you write, um, it's okay to have a sense of humor, but you need to be professional about it. Make sure there's no grammatical errors. You might not want to throw out too many y'alls, and you know what I mean, like things like that. You might want to make it just a little more upscale. Your own personal style. So when I do a session, okay, so when I started out doing sessions, I was doing them outside. Now I'd like show up in sweatpants because I was going to get all dirty. But no one's going to want to walk around like a park or a playground with some photographers looking all frumpy. And you're not going to want to spend a lot of money with somebody that doesn't look put together. So you need to have that presence. And that includes your car. I saw something about this once before. Like, someone was like, my car is like run down. I feel embarrassed by it, but I can't afford another one right now. So she's like, I park down the street and walk up to their house because I don't want them to see my car. And, kind of makes sense. Like, it does show something if you're going to show up at their house, like, and you're rolling up this old ratty thing that's broken down. Like, they're going to think, like, I thought I was doing this high end person. So it's unfortunate, but people do make these assumptions about other people. And I'm sorry if that sounds really bad, but it does. Like, I think it's important to know that about yourself. And then for me, I also choose props, hats, and other things that are of a nicer caliber. If you wear nice clothes, you're going to want your babies to wear nice clothes. So I spend extra money, and it's only like $5 more per hat to get the ones made out of cashmere and the ones that are made out of mohair and the organic or the alpaca. And those things photograph better and they look fancier. And so it will look like I'm getting more for my money too, because here's my baby dressed up in really beautiful things and not just some synthetic yarn that was all itchy and scratchy on their head. Um, and so marketing, I have a whole slide on marketing. But basically, when you market, you want to make sure you're marketing to the right people. You don't want to market to the people that are looking for $100 photographers. And so I'm going to talk about in a second. Customer service, and again, this is where my high-end customer service experience came back to help me. You're going to do everything you can to make the client happy without, even if you can't do what they want you to do. So again, it's a lot of like, you know what, like, I can't do that, but I will do this for you. I had a client who had to go through a couple of album remakes. The first time, the lab, like, she has beautiful blonde hair and printed her hair this like yellow. It was terrible. And then it was reprinted. Then the quality of the album wasn't as good the second time. So I don't use that lab anymore. But I was like, you know what? I can't refund the cost of the album at this point in time. I'm going to remake it for you for a third time, but give me some time to research albums. And I will remake it for you once I have gone to this conference to look at them in person and find a better alternative for you. In the meantime, I will do a free session for you. So I waive the session fee, and I will give you $500 in product credit for after that session. So I didn't refund the money for the album, but I gave her the amount in, the same amount. And then I also made sure I got her the album, and she didn't have to follow up with me. I was like, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to the conference this week. Then I returned, like, I ordered your album. You should get it in 2 weeks. I can't wait, like all this stuff. So I was following with her the whole time. And then she got the album, sent me the nicest note. Can you do a session in September? And so I've kept this client. I've kept the client from saying nasty things about me online. And I've kept her happy. And that's what's really important to me. It's much better to have, spend a little extra money on a client and make sure that they're all fine and dandy than it is to deal with somebody bad mouthing you or going away unhappy and being like, you know what, like, I used that photographer, but the album was terrible. Like, you don't want someone to say that. So that's important. Okay, so if you're going to be $1,000 photographer, you have to have good skills. So I didn't start out being $1,000 photographer. I didn't feel like I was worth it. And maybe I was, and I just didn't feel like I was. But after a while, you know what you do? You start to feel like I deserve more, like, I'm spending so much time and look how beautiful these photos are, and I'm starting to win prizes. Like, I should be making more money. you're doing the right thing by learning the classes and or taking the classes and learning everything. So stick with it. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it's 7:45. Ah, I'm gonna go fast. All right, last thing, believe you're worth it. Okay, um, these are my kids, Chase and Clara. Yay, I love them. So not only do you have to believe you're worth it, but you have to believe your family is worth it, because there will be clients, and I've had several of them, who will come to you after the session and be like, oh, I didn't look at the price list and I didn't realize it was that much money. Can we work out a deal? Maybe I can do another session and then pay you for one, like half of the photos from this one and half of the photos from this one, and then give you like, one full thing. And I was like, what? Like, no, like, I'm worth more than that. The time I've spent on your session is worth it. You would never go to a restaurant and eat half of your meal and ask to pay for half of it. You would never then say, oh, well, I'll come back later and order another meal and pay for half of it. And then, like, that's crazy. Like, what? So believe you're worth it, because you are going to have those conversations and people get it, but they usually still want a deal. So you just have to make sure you stand up and say, no, I'm worth it. Because if you give that person a deal, and they don't give you anything in return, like maybe you can barter or something like that, but if you give that person a deal, they're going to go tell all of their friends, well, I just asked her if I could pay half, and then they're going to think, well, why didn't she let me pay half? Or, okay, well, I'm going to book her session and then negotiate down, and you just don't want to go down that path. I am CarMax. My prices are what you get, and you can't negotiate with me. Okay, here's my marketing secrets. Keyword your website. So each photo in your portfolio should be keyworded, which means your title and your alt tag should have the search term that you want people to use to find you. For me, that is Northern Virginia newborn photographer. So every website or every photo on my portfolio, every public photo on my website and my blog are Northern Virginia newborn photographer, Northern Virginia baby photographer, Northern Virginia portrait photographer, portrait studio. Like, I just came up with all these different ways of saying it. Professional newborn photographer in Northern Virginia. Like, switch the words around. The more times you have those words on your site, the better. And those will then come up in Google image searches as well. And so that is really key. Make it location centric. Like I said, people are going to search. Some people will come in and search for newborn photographer, and Google is sometimes smart enough to know where they are coming from. But usually, though, they're going to be searching specific. Ashburn, Virginia newborn photographer. Chantilly, Virginia newborn photographer. So be location specific when you're keywording, and then use it in your blogging. Link to your site. This is a really strange thing. Link to your site from every blog post, and link to your site from your own website. So every website page you have on your site, link back to your site. It's the weirdest thing. And one of the things I do is I put keywords on my site in white font, because my website is white, so you can't see that they're there, and it looks nice and clean. But if you hover over my front page of my site, like the bottom part of it, there's a lot of text down there that you can't see. That's another secret, and it's right there on the front page, and it finds it in Google, but no one can see it. The more backlinks you get to the site, the higher you'll get up in your search results. Blog for other people and have them blog for you. So you guys have a network that you're in right now of photographers, and you probably, some of you, most of you, have blogs. If you invite someone to blog for you, and hopefully they'll reciprocate, or you can work out something and be like, hey, I'll write a blog post for your blog, you write one for mine. That's another backlink to your site from another site about the same topic, and that's important. So if you want, like I blogged for Macaroni Kid, which is a family blog in our area. So because I'm on a family blog, I'm kind of getting more cred. Backlinks are important. You can find services where you can pay for backlinks to your site, and I actually did that once. And I think I had like 300 backlinks to my site in 2 days, and that was probably part of the uptick in Google stuff too, because I think I did that around the same time. So backlinks are really important, but mostly the backlinks are important from reputable sites about the same topic. So you want to be, blogging for other photography blogs, or blogging for like weddings, if you're a wedding person, like the florist, something like that. Um, in your This is a really simple thing. In your start your out of office message and just say, instead of like I'm out of the office, like thank you so much for contacting me. I'm going to respond to you within 24 hours, and give them your social network links. So in the meantime, follow me here, become my fan. People won't do stuff until you suggest it. So in my blog too, I'll be like, hey, if you like this post, become my fan. The more fans you have, obviously you get more street cred. So respond quickly, as quickly as you possible. Even if I say I'm going to respond within 24 hours, I try to respond within a few hours. And follow up. You know how many clients I've gotten just by sending another email a few days later, like, hey, did you get my email or did you go in spam folder? I just was worried because I was worried you were waiting to hear back from me and you didn't get it. So just let me know if you got it, okay? And then they'll respond like, oh, yeah, sorry, I just got caught up in stuff. Let's go ahead and book XYZ date. I'm like, sweet, got it. I already talked about this. I'm going to go past it. I use Facebook advertising because Facebook advertising can be really specific. I can pick geographical area, ages, gender. I can pick demographic information. So I can say, like, I want someone with a college education, who is married, who is between 28 and 35 years old. So you can get really specific on who your ad goes to, and then I pay if they click on my ad. And that's the only time I pay Facebook. And so that's what makes it worth it too, because it's really targeted and it only is shown to people who aren't already fans. So that's nice too. Leverage your networks. This also helped me a substantial amount when I first moved into my new neighborhood. I went to all the people on my street, and once I became friends with them, I wasn't like crazy woman. Like once we were all friends, and they knew I was a photographer, and people started asking me about photography sessions. I'm like, look, I'll waive this session fee as long as you share your slideshow with all of your friends on Facebook after your session, and that's it. And I'll talk about while that's important in a second, I also offer referral programs. Here's the slideshow thing. I use Short Stack to fan gate my slideshows. It works with Facebook, creates an app, and in order to see the client's slideshow, they have to like my page. And the reason I want that to happen is that like all the friends of my client are potential clients of mine, including the grandparents of the friends and the aunts and uncles, because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that photographer is amazing. I want her to be my grandniece's photographer too. I'm going to recommend her. So that's all awesome. And usually, friends hang out with people in the same demographic and same general geographical area. So that is really key as well. Here are my unsuccessful attempts at finding new clients. I did a couple of baby shows. That was not helpful, but they are really good networking events. You can find, like, that's how I met my Macaroni kid network and started blogging for her. Google advertising was not successful because you cannot get down into the demographic like you can on Facebook. And donating sessions, anytime you give something away for free, people just aren't going to appreciate it as much as they are if they're going to pay for it. So it's not going to be your key demographic, but there's a but. It is a nice thing to do if you want to support a charity that you love. And in some ways, it can be a charitable contribution that you can then take as an expense, or write off as an expense. Here are 3 marketing and pricing blogs that I highly recommend. And again, that's going to be on your PDF later. Just in case you're curious, here's what's in my bag. I shoot with Canon 5D Mark III. 50 millimeter is my newborn lens. And then my 100 millimeter macro, I do not take those off. Well, I do. I switch them back and forth during my newborn sessions. And the 7300 does not off my camera when I do family sessions. It is amazing. And then every now and then I'll pull out my wide angle, but that's really rare. You also got to have bug spray. We have a lot of ticks in the area. Don't forget that, people. And all extra stuff that you can imagine you would need. As far as branding goes, like, have a nice bag, because people are going to look at your bag because you're going to be pulling your camera in and out of it and all that stuff and lenses and stuff. Like, have a nice bag. I have a nice bag. Here's where I get my props. Nothing new or special. Just look for good quality stuff, and you can get good stuff anywhere. Here are my 2 favorite shops. Of course, they're both on vacation right now. But these both make amazing quality and are both really great people to making the hats. So I like to give them both a shout out, Hannah and Jean. Jean at Baby Blue Cradle and Hannah at HD Photo. That's it. Oh my gosh, I finished. Okay. Sorry, I
Wow, that
ran.
was really great. Thank you for sharing all of
Oh,
that information.
woohoo. You're welcome.
Very nice. Well, we have a number of questions that have come up in the question box. Do you mind if I ask you a few of these
No,
questions?
I'm fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Tina Brooks had a couple of questions. One, do you ask your clients to sign releases for you before you hang any images in doctor's offices and that sort of thing?
Yes, they have to sign a portrait contract when they book their session with me, and it does have a model release on it. But in courtesy to them, if there's anyone over a newborn age that I'm going to hang a canvas up in the office, I do contact them again just to make sure it's okay with them. No one's ever said no. They're always like, "Yo, that's so awesome! Yes, definitely go for it." But newborn babies, no one's going to see like a 2 year old or 3 year old running around and be like, "I saw you at the pediatrician's office. That was your newborn photo." So people aren't going to recognize newborns, but people will recognize children and adults. So I do get their permission. Good question.
Okay, cool. And just to go back to that idea of how does one know when they can increase their prices? I think a lot
Yeah.
of people in this lecture, they're just starting out, learning about the craft and about the business. And what was it for you that gave you the confidence to know that you could really kind of boost your price?
Hmm. I don't, and part of it was necessity. Um, Part of it, like I have to increase my prices. I have to start charging more. I'm just going to make myself do it. And you will get people that are like, whoa, you're out of my budget. But if you're setting expectations on your website, you're going to get very little of that. That's going to be really rare. Um, I don't know the best way to say it. Like a part of it is just like you can see yourself growing. Like if you look at these photos and compare it to even the stuff a year ago, there's a difference. And I start like when I look at my own photos, I can see it. And I can see like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm a higher caliber. And I know of, especially in our area, one really high caliber photography studio who charges, $60 or $80 for an 8x10. And I compare my work to hers, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm as good as her, if not better. So I
Hmm.
should be charging more. If she's getting that much, why can't I? And of course, she has a studio, so she has overhead that I don't have, which is nice. So I can probably, and I can afford to keep my prices a little bit lower than her. Um, but right now, I'm booked out 5 months. So my next available session is September 16th. So I don't have anything available until then. And that gave me, like, just knowing that gives me some flexibility too to play around with my pricing. I can be like, let's see what happens if I increase it to this much for the digital files. And I did that just recently, and after some encouragement from friends, actually Jessica's online. Hey Jessica, shout out. um, I did that, and within 24 hours booked a session at the new pricing, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm gonna make a lot more come August when I get my raise. But um, yeah, sometimes you just need to try it, and if it doesn't work, like, just scale back a little bit.
Hmm. That makes sense. Would you say that you usually take these pictures in studios, or do you go to your client's home? Like, how do you kind of
I
meet with them and
I
engage?
like I like controlling the light. I use constant light in my studio, which is has no windows. And so I like to have complete control over the light because you never know where that baby's head's going to end up. So for newborn sessions, I highly recommend, I say 90% are done in my studio. They can pay me extra to go to their house, but that's a lot of packing up and driving. So it's like $100 more if they want me to go to them.
Hmm.
Probably will start to charge a little bit more than that because I don't like it. Or I might just stop offering it because it's a lot of packing up. Though I totally get it. Like, gosh, you just had a baby a week ago and now you have to get out of the house for a few hours and. Though I try to make it comfortable. And they're at my house. There's a couch in the studio and they can help themselves to anything. And I do have snacks for them and everything. And I'm like, if you need to go out and take a nap on the guest bedroom around the corner, like, please do. Like, go for it. I get it. I remember what it was like.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. In terms of when you do, if you are taking pictures in your studio or taking pictures at your client's house, how do you usually set up your lights?
Okay, so at a client's house, I will tell them to find me the darkest possible room. And sometimes that just means like we have to draw the blinds and shutters and everything and close everything so that I can set up my light. Now, when I go to a client's house, I have this like LED light because I don't want to, I don't know, I just get a little freaky about the big constant light bulbs around little babies. I do use them in my studio, but that's because they always stay set up. But when I'm taking up and setting down a lot and unscrewing light bulbs and things like that, like I just switch to an LED light, so it's a lot
Hmm.
safer and it's cool and everything. Um, and so I just use one light. It's pretty simple. Um, for the family photos, I use natural light. So we just you know find a good and like find out where the light's coming best in the house, and I'm like, all right, let's stand by this window, and these are nice curtains, and we'll take pictures of you and your baby right here with this beautiful natural light, or we'll pile into their bed and take them there. um, and so I just have the one light. um, be careful when you photograph newborns that you have the light where you would put it if you had someone standing up straight. You would put it at the top of their head and coming down their body. You wouldn't stick it on their butt and shine up their nose. So, just like you would never put a flashlight under someone's face, you would never stick the light there. So I see a lot of newborn photographers who put the light on the wrong side of the baby. So that's another thing that'll set you apart is if you know your lighting. And I feather the light so across the baby, so my backgrounds are darker than the front because the
Hmm.
light is just, I have a softbox, so I can control where the light hits as much as possible anyway. So the light should scoot across the baby, and the background should still be dark, and then I get some really great shadows too. I love shadows.
Yeah, yeah. How long does a session usually last?
Family sessions are an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it depends on the ages.
Hmm.
You know, you can have a meltdown at 45 minutes and be like, okay, got enough. Newborn sessions usually last around 3 hours. They're long because I do like 9 poses with the babies, and then the family photos on top of it. So we start with the family photos. Those are like 10 minutes. It's all a flow. I got into like a flow. Okay, mom starts, you hold the baby here, put your face here, close your eyes, take a deep breath, open your eyes, turn into the baby. All right, now dad's going to come around at this picture, put your arm on her, put your arm on here. Like it's all a flow, and I do pretty much the same poses unless they say like, oh, let's try this. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then in the newborn sessions, I do the same poses too, but I style them all differently. But just knowing like what's coming next helps it go faster. So those are about 3 hours, unless the baby's super sleepy. My baby today was, so it was only 2.5 hours. And then, if they're really gassy, then they'll be upset and fussy. And so those can take longer. So I have had sessions go 4 hours. That's really rare, but it happens. So
Hmm.
you kind of have to like work in like I just make sure I start 9 a.m. Because my kids don't get out of school till 3. They go in at 7:30. So I start my sessions at 9, and then I have lots of time, and I don't feel stressed. And I feel like that comes across too. If you're stressed, the baby's going to be stressed, the parents going to be stressed. Like as long as you're all relaxed, it usually goes fine. So
Yeah. And speaking of being relaxed, you have a compliment and a question here from Stephen Phillips. He says you have a really fabulous upbeat personality. How important is it that you project that to your potential clients?
I think people are drawn to people who are innately happy. I mean, this is kind of silly, but I do think it comes across. If someone gives me their phone number, and when they're doing an inquiry, I will call them to talk about the session with them, because I do feel like you can make a connection and you want that personality coming across. Like I want them to fall in love with me in addition to my photography. And then if they see my pricing, they might say, yeah, it's a little bit higher than the other person, but it's going to be worth it because I really liked her better. Um, and I don't know, like I'm one of those type of people. Like I don't make enemies. Like I like everybody. We actually had a book club recently for Divergent. You had to choose your faction. I was like, I'm Amity. Like I love everybody. I drink the happy juice. So it's true. Like I've always been that way. My mom's online right now. She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I was the one. I have 2 sisters, one older, one younger. I would break up the fights. I would be the one who'd be like, "Oh, I'll sit in the middle seat. Goodness sake, stop fighting." Like it's not that bad. Like just let it roll off. That's not to say I'm always like so happy and carefree. Like I get stressed out just like anyone else, and especially when I have a ton of sessions to edit. And I get grumpy and PMS and all that stuff. but I feel like especially when you're inviting people in your home, you want them to feel comfortable. You want the kids to love you. Like I think it's a really important part of it. Um, so I do feel like it comes across really well. I feel like it's important too. I do. There is a family photographer in the area that one of my friends is like, she just doesn't have the personality, and I had friends who are interested in photography who have their very first SLR camera, and I'm like, you know what, you're gonna be awesome because you have the personality. And I told her that. I was like, you have the personality, you have this outgoing bubble, you kind of, everyone's a little bit different. It's not to say you need it, but I do think it helps.
Hmm. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, people want to be around nice folks
Yeah.
for the most part, I would assume. But yeah, well, that's very interesting. And in terms of where you get your prints made, do you order them from a specific company?
Yeah, so I use lots of different labs, but for print specifically, I use Simply Color Lab. They are the only professional lab that I found that does not charge extra for drop shipping. And I drop ship everything to my clients. So I pay for the boutique packaging and then I drop ship it to my clients. So once you meet the minimum order, which I think is like 13 bucks or whatever, you don't have to pay extra for shipping, and it goes directly to them. Every other lab will ship free to you, or to me directly. But if I want to drop ship, we'll charge an extra $7. And I'm like, dude, like that adds up. So I use
Mm-hmm.
Simply Color Lab for prints and metal ornaments. I use Pro DPI for the baby announcements and holiday cards. I just really liked the cardstock. I use their EcoMatte cardstock and I just love it. So I was like, okay, I'll pay the shipping. Um, I also use Pro DPI for the accordions. I don't know. I just kind of like theirs too. That's kind of silly. I use CG Pro prints for my canvases. They are honestly they're pretty cheap as far as like pricing goes, but the caliber is great. Like I've compared them with really expensive Canvas labs, and I like CG Pro prints more. I just do. I feel like they have some really great characteristics, and the clients are always happy with them. I have them all over my house. I love them. And I have lots of different Canvas labs over my house too. And I show the clients, I'm like, here's my lab and here's my old lab, and you can see the difference. And they can. So I think that's about it. Oh, albums. I use a new album company, Uni Albums, UNI Albums. They actually offer design services, but I don't use it. I just submit my fully designed albums to them. Um, and I really like them. I've only had like 2 or 3 albums through them so far. I just switched in March, but they've been great.
Hmm. What would you say is your regular turnaround time? Like
Oh, it varies a lot. So
from like a
I was
session
doing,
to
yeah,
when they get,
I was
yeah.
doing 4 sessions a week until February. And November of last year, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep this up. Like I was getting like 10, 12 sessions behind, and it takes me a full day of editing. It takes me like 8 hours to edit each session, like including the culling time. And I'm really picky about my editing. And it's definitely something I could think about outsourcing later. But right for now, yeah, I actually like it because I listen to audiobooks while I edit. So I don't want to give that up because it's my book reading time too. Um, but so I was doing, if you think about that, 4 sessions a week plus another 8 hours of editing, that's like 40 hours plus. And then I have to respond to emails and place orders and put together, yeah, like it was just crazy. So I cut back. So this year, starting in February, because I was already booked out when I decided this until February, starting in February, um, or March, I went down to 3 sessions a week. And now, so back then, my turnaround was like 2 to 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes. Now it's like 1 week, 1.5 weeks. I tell them 1.5 weeks and it comes in one. that's about how I've been. Now, that being said, today started my 9 day in a row session streak because I had a lot of babies born early and a couple of babies born late. So I had to like get them all in really fast. So that ninth baby's probably gonna have to wait 2 weeks. But on my site it says there's a 2 week turnaround, so I'm fine with 2 weeks. It's fine.
Nice. Oh, that's very cool. And
Yeah.
you had mentioned that you were really particular about your editing. What type of software do you usually use?
Okay, so I use Lightroom and Photoshop, Photoshop Creative Cloud, um, and I'll call and everything in Lightroom. That's my library of all of my client work is in there. And then in Photoshop, I will, do things like remove scaliness and stuff like that. I do run actions. I have a Florabella action that I run, but it's nothing like the one I bought. Like, once I don't know if you've ever purchased actions, but I purchased one and I was like kind of what I wanted, but then I just kind of like recorded over it with a bunch of changes to make it better. So, um, but check out Florabella. She's really pretty. It's just her stuff is really pretty. It wasn't exactly me. And then I use a Carrie Myers color pop, and again I've edited that one as well to just how I want it. And then I also, to every photo, I add a little teeny bit of blush pink. I don't know why, I just like it, so I do. Every
Well, it's
single
kind of,
photo.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like a signature. It goes
it
along with the
is, it's my
brand a
thing.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I will take one more question. Let me see. Let me get well, this one you've kind of already answered, but I think it's kind of important to bring up because it's something that could translate into any different genre. When you're photographing a client, whether it's a newborn or somebody else, and they become a little fussy, how do you deal with that? Maybe not newborns, but maybe when you're working more with the families.
Okay, so I'm definitely a kill 'em with kindness type person, and I'm always like, "Oh, it's okay. It's all right." In my head, I'm like, "Holy cow. Like what in the world?" It's all going on in my head, and you will see me if the baby, like if I'm posing the baby and I pick up my camera and the baby moves, and then I pose the baby again and I pick up my camera and the baby moves. You will probably, if you're standing on my shoulder, you will hear me take a deep breath. And I'll just like, and I'll blow out through my mouth like that too. And I'm just like, relax. Like it helps, like it just helps me to chill. And you got to remember, like for me especially, I'm only there for a couple hours. Like after that, it's gone. It's over. It's going to be past. So I don't worry about it. I had a little 8-year-old once who started her session with her two little sisters just great. But the second I tried to focus on her middle sister, or the one younger than her, um, the older one, became so mean. Like she would sneer at me in every photo. She picked up a stick and tried to ram it into my camera lens. Um, and the mom was like, "Oh, honey, stop doing that." And I had told the mom ahead of time, like, if they get stressed or if they get upset or anything, like, don't worry. Just, we're going to try to keep it light. So she wasn't, so I kicked myself in the foot later with that. Like, she wasn't like yelling at her or anything like that. But she's like, "Oh, honey, don't do that." But I just tried to like distract, like, okay. And that's why it's nice to have lollipops in your bag. Like, do you like lollipops? It doesn't work for 1-year-olds because they can't have it. But like, what kind of flavor lollipop do you have? And you know what? If they don't want me to touch them, which has sometimes happened with like 1 or 2-year-olds, like they'll be scared of this stranger in front of them. I'll use the parents. Like, daddy's gonna come tickle you. It's okay if daddy tickles them, but not this crazy person that's waving this black thing in front of their faces. So I'll get daddy to come in, and that loosens everybody up too. And you get great photos then of kids interacting with their parents, and laughter and all that stuff. Like I want that, and I want, honestly, like I'm not happy unless I leave the session with at least one serious looking in the lens photo. Like I want that. I want to see your soul picture. Of course, with newborns you don't get it, but with kids, like yeah, it's great to have a happy face, but I like the serious ones. Those are my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you get to see their big bright eyes too. I love those.
Yeah. Yeah, you recently had a picture up the other day. Your sister will always have your back, and the kids were kind of
Yeah.
looking in the lens.
Oh,
That was really
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
I forgot. I was gonna say one thing. Like if any of this was helpful tonight, um, please pay it forward. There are a lot of photographers out there that talk bad about each other, who will try to undermine each other's businesses by posting negative reviews on other photographers' websites and things like that. It's not going to help your business. It won't help you as a person. It's gonna, you're gonna think back on that later and you'll regret it. Um, it's always going to make you feel better to do good for others. And I feel like if this is someone's passion, who am I to hold it back? Like, people did this for me, so I'm doing this for you. And I'm just going to encourage you to think about it that way too, so that when you get out there and you start, working and doing this for a living, think about, hey, that photographer Becky really helped me. I wouldn't have been able to do this without her. Like, so pay it forward. Um, I think it'll really help because I do feel like it's an awesome business. I feel like it's a great career to have. And I think everyone should be able to do what they love. And I'm not going to hurt anyone else's business. I'm not going to purposefully try to do anything like that's going to be harmful for me in the long run. And, you know, it's going to hurt my soul. Like, it really will. Like, I feel that way. So just think about those things. I don't want to end on a
Hmm.
sad note. I want to say, like, yay, pass it,
Yeah.
pay it forward. It's great. Like, it is. It feels good to help. So I hope it was helpful.
Yes, no, that was really great advice. Really great advice.